Hey everyone, another week, another round of FNaF Teasers. This time we're looking at how the community reacted to the teasers of FNaF World. This game has the second most teasers out of any FNaF game, with a count of 29 teasers, first place being Ultimate Custom Night with a whopping 69 teasers. So let's cut right to the chase and go back to the year of 2015 and look at the many teasers of It all started with this image. Posted on August 2nd, 2015, this image was another one of those finale images we've gotten accustomed to. Again, very similar to the reaction of the first FNaF 4 teaser. A lot of people thought this was going to be the end. But fool me once and all that, because a lot of people weren't buying it this time. Also keep in mind that the teaser before this one was this, the end with a question mark that left things open. So people got to theorizing. Here's some observations that people had. For one, both the Phantom and Shadow animatronics were seemingly missing from this teaser. Some suggested that this was because they were hallucinations and not real, but from our understanding at the time, neither were the nightmares. Maybe this was evidence that the nightmares were real the whole time. Also, there appeared to be something in Golden Freddy's right eye. Did this confirm the theory that Phone Guy was stuffed in Golden Freddy? Another theory was that this was teasing what we now know as an Ultimate Custom Night, though people back then couldn't even guess that we'd be able to have a 50-20 mode, let alone a 33-20. Brightening up the image did nothing, so only time would tell if this was truly teasing anything. And time would indeed tell. On 9/11/2015, the 1-year anniversary of the first FNaF 2 teaser, something changed. Something very subtle.
Stop staring at me with them big old eyes!
This made the community flip out again. What could this mean? Is it Balloon Boy or Plushtrap's endoskeleton? Is this what was in the box? FNaF 5 confirmed? Amidst the huge wave of theories, these guys pretty much got it spot on, at least for in terms of future teasers. Nobody could have predicted the cartoony FNaF spin-off RPG that we actually got. But the very next day we got our second change to the image, and it became very clear to everyone what the deal was going to be. Over the next week, we got a character that was either changed or added to the image. The reactions each week were pretty similar, so let's go through these quickly.
Sometimes my genius is... it's almost frightening.
Once we made it to the 18th of September, we got our title reveal. Sort of. The file name of this image now read fnafworld.jpg. For a lot of people, this was the first time they were hearing of this, but 3 days earlier Scott had actually announced what this game was going to be on a Steam post. In this post, he made a few big announcements, like how there was not going to be a Five Nights at Freddy's 5, Liar! The Halloween update was not going to add anything to the story, and most importantly, the next game he's working on will be called FNaF World. The game won't be a horror game, instead it will be an RPG where you use the characters of the FNaF franchise. So unfortunately, that took a lot out of the mystery. Though going forward, there were a few notable reactions from some of the teasers. For one, the introduction of what we now know as Funtime Foxy caused a lot of people to think that this ended the mangled gender debate. Similarly, when Spring Bonnie was revealed, it opened up a new debate on that animatronic's gender. I will never forget how obsessed people were about identifying these robo-animals' genders back in the day.
Mangle was a man. It's whatever it wants to be.
Also at this point, on September 20th, 2015, FNafWorld.com was launched. Previously, all teasers were posted on scottgames.com, but now we had a new site to periodically check in on. Moving on, people freaked out when they saw the dead kid sprite, and a lot of people correctly predicted a playable purple guy, though he wouldn't appear until Update 2. At one point, Nightmare Chica was the last animatronic to not be turned, so a lot of people made fun of that. Then on October 30th, 2015, the trailer was released. The video on Scott's channel has since been taken down, but we knew reactions were pretty rough. Despite the fact that Scott would later go on to admit that FNaF World was a bit of a rushed cash grab, Reddit did their usual Reddit-y thing of being overly positive at the new thing. However, this was not a community-wide sentiment. While there were still people who had faith in the game, Scott was receiving a lot of flack for this drastic change in tone for the franchise. This caused him to release something that, to this day, people are still unsure of what it means. Let me set the scene. We just got this bright, bubbly, and colorful trailer filled with upbeat music and goofy little characters. So what was the next teaser posted on FNafWorld.com? a creepy image of Mangle hanging from the ceiling with what some people assume to be the paddle ball from the trailer. There's also the text, "See what you've all done." Now I know I just said the community backlash to the trailer is what caused him to post this, but that's never been confirmed. There are a bunch of other possibilities. Besides what looks like a potential self-harm threat, it could very well have been teasing the fact that there's going to be some dark elements hidden in the game, which there were. It also could have been something specific that was planned in the game, but was cut for whatever reason, similar to all the 87 references in the FNaF 4 teasers. But a lot of those are modern day interpretations. Let's look back at how everyone reacted to the image the day of posting it. For the most part, it was mostly shock. But I like this one theory that what this image was implying was that FNaF World would have a similar party mechanic system to Fire Emblem. If a party member dies, that's it, they're gone for the rest of the playthrough. The day after, this image was removed, and all we were left with was a blank screen. However, on the 29th of November, this was posted. While a lot of people still remember the hanging Mangle image, this image is often forgotten. A seemingly blank image, though when brightened up, you see this creepy shot of Ball Boy with the text, "Madness takes many forms." Now, this makes it seem like it's less self-harm threat and more, guys, don't worry, there's gonna be some horror in this game, I promise. As usual, people were excited, but I do want to point out this interesting theory someone had, that Ball Boy was the one to kill Mangle. We would end up getting one more teaser before the game released. This last one was posted on Christmas Eve, simply wishing the FNaF community a Merry Christmas. This also teased some of the previously unseen enemies you'd be facing in the game. Nothing unusual, however, as for reactions, the pig seemed to be the most popular amongst the new characters. Also pig related, one person drew the connection to one of the mysterious masked characters from the FNaF 3 Happiest Day minigame. And that was pretty much it. The game would release about a month later on January 21st, 2016. However, due to massive amounts of criticism towards the game, Scott removed it from Steam and promised to re-release it later in an updated and better state. On February 18th, 2016, we got our first teaser for Update 2. Alongside the promise that Update 2 is coming soon, more characters were teased, like Purple Guy and the FNaF 4 Halloween animatronics. People seemed to be hyped again, and some were appreciative that Scott was listening to the community and taking in their feedback. After this, we got a few more teasers, however there really wasn't anything big to note, just some minigame teasers like Foxy Fighters and Chica's Magic Rainbow. Also, for April Fool's Day of that year, we got this image on the Scott Games website, which also ended up being a minigame for FNaF World. Also, fun fact about Freddy in Space, the first mention of it was all the way back in December of 2015, when a user on a Steam forum made a joke about a potential FNaF 12 and made this image. Scott actually responded to that post, saying that Freddy in Space would actually release in April 2016. So somehow that guy either inspired Scott to add this to FNaF World, or he accidentally guessed that Scott was already developing Freddy in Space. Either one is pretty cool. But anyway, that's all I have for today. Sorry I didn't have that many interesting things to say about these this time. For the most part, these teasers were all the same, just with added characters. But we would be back to more classic style teasers with the next game, Sister Location. Shout out to my channel members. This week we have 2 new members. Welcome Martin Oyola and Mathtron 5000. Thanks for helping keep this channel going. And of course, as always, thank you for watching. Remember to like it if you liked it, subscribe if you really liked it, and I'll see you next time.